Hello, it's Jen again, and welcome to another Pride and Grit Spouse Spotlight. I am super excited today to have Christy Dewitt with us today. And some of you may have heard of Christy or may have heard of the company that she's a part of, which is Nomadés. So she's going to talk a little bit about her journey, both as a milspouse and also as an entrepreneur. So stick around. I think we're going to have a lot of great gems today. So Christy, why don't you go ahead and kind of give us the highlight reel on you and your military life?
Oh, well, thanks, Jen. My name is Christy, and I'm a Marine Corps spouse. My husband has been in the Marine Corps for 23 years, and we are about November 1st, he's retiring. So we're excited about the new adventures coming, but it's a little bittersweet, I think, wrapping up our time in the Marine Corps. And we have been married 26 years, and we have three children. We have a son who is a police officer and a Marine reservist, and he lives in Memphis, Tennessee, with his beautiful bride. And they have one sweet baby and one on the way.
Ooh,
So we're
exciting.
proud grandparents. And then we have a daughter who will turn 21 this next month, and she's at Liberty University. And we have a son that is graduating high school and just turned 18. So he is wrapping up his high school career and looking forward to college. So that's kind of where we are. We live in the DC area right now.
Okay, yeah, lots of big transitions this year. So let's talk. I want to get into the company and your journey and the kind of the whole business side, but let's talk sort of MilSpouse side for a second, especially because you guys are kind of ending your tenure soon-ish. But tell me, like from your perspective, if you as you look back on those years, what sort of stands out as the best thing about your time, and what stands out as kind of the biggest challenge over those same years?
Okay, I think the best thing about the MilSpouse community and being part of the military, either as a service member or dependent, is that you have a bond with those people. And I don't know that there's another bond out there within a community that's quite like that. Maybe a church might be something that might be comparable to that. Um, but the the things that we've had to endure and go through, and uh, moving, deployments, um, struggles with marriages, struggles with just this life in general, and having those people around you that have been there, done that, succeeded, survived. The friendships that I've made in the MilSpouse community are that's it. That's the pinnacle for me.
Sure.
Um, I the very first duty station. Well, first of all, when we were at school, when he was at TBS, there were four or five of us that were married. A lot of the guys were single,
Mhm.
and so there were a lot of spouses. But I keep up with those same girls 23 years later. Then the first person that was my across the street neighbor, we have been friends ever since then. And this is the first time this year that we've ever been stationed back together.
Oh, how fun.
We're having a
I
blast.
bet.
But I think the friendships
Hmm.
different than any other thing I can say. It's just been the best part of this.
Yeah. No, I think we all have those people that, we're like, ooh, maybe we could end up back together in the end. I have a friend I was talking to recently, and we were just kind of talking about that stage of life. And she's like, yeah, look for a house and I'll move across the street and we'll just
Right?
continue
I
on.
mean,
And I mean, maybe there's other friends, of course, that I would do that with, but I think it is this really unique audience where also you can, move to where someone is and you haven't seen them in 20 years and you just pick up right where you left off. It's,
right? And when you're away from family, because I'm very
yeah.
close to my family, I have a huge support system within my family. But when your kid has lice and your mom's 1,200 miles away, and there's that person that you can call and say, can you come over to my house and help and look through my hair to make sure I don't have it too? I mean, these are the things that bond you together
Right. Yes.
with your community.
Yes.
Not that
In our
it's ever
worst
happened.
moments. No, no, no. No. Absolutely. Too funny. So let's kind of talk about how, you took, what are some of the harder pieces, like you mentioned, being away from family, And that, I think, for all of us is always often a challenge. Is there anything else that sort of stands out that helped, be the catalyst for you then going and kind of developing your own path? Or, I don't know,
I
what
think
were some of those things?
um, for me, it's been a little bit of a struggle. Um, we've kind of found a way around it within our company, but I think for mill spouses in general, and I know for me, is one of the hardest struggles is finding your identity outside of what your husband does,
Mhm.
because a lot of us um, have to kind of leave our careers behind. We've had to do that, um, whether it's because of licensing or just the upheaval of moving every 3 years and trying to find our path in a career. Um, I think that is one of the struggles that mill spouses face, is just finding your own identity. That is, what is your passion? What do you want to do? Um, and I like supporting my husband.
Sure.
That's
Yeah, no,
great.
of
And
course.
being a mom at home and all of that, but making sure that I don't lose myself
Mhm.
in the moving and in the mundane of the military.
Sure.
I think that's been one of the struggles. But as I've been in this for 23 years, I am so grateful for the organizations and the people who have pushed through on our behalf.
Oh my gosh.
And it's amazing to me how much better it is now than when we started this company 10 years
Yeah.
ago. And then, sure, when I came in to the Marine Corps, just a lot of us did not have. We were stay-at-home
Mhm.
moms, and there was no real options.
Right.
It was difficult, and it was a difficult path to have. But I think it has been a struggle, but I love to see the progress
Hmm.
that we've made, and those people who really like dug in the trenches and moved that mill spouse community forward as far as our careers go.
Yeah, no, it is really fun to watch how different it is for folks, for brand new mill spouses that are starting out. It really is different than, what, probably you or I experienced in those early years. And I'm really fascinated by it. And I look forward to seeing kind of in 10 years, and there's always going to be challenges, right? But in 10 years, what are the struggles? And I don't know if employment will always be at the top. Like, I almost think maybe there's a chance it won't be the issue,
Right.
because we're actually starting to find ways to fix it. And and entrepreneurship is certainly an area where I think a lot of people have realized, just because of the way the world works now, and because it's so easy to have a business from home, it's really transforming, I think, the experience for people in a way that you or I probably would have appreciated, 15 years ago.
For sure.
So
For sure.
let's talk a little bit about that transition for you. So tell me how you kind of went from. So if anyone doesn't know, why don't you tell us a little bit about Nomadés, and then we'll talk a little bit about how that came to be.
Okay, so Nomadis is a sterling silver company. We do charms similar to the P word. I'm not scared to say it,
Okay.
Pandora. So our stuff fits right on their bracelets, so no worries. But what happened was one of my friends was running in the half marathon for Disney,
Mm.
and running as a group because one of their friends had survived breast cancer. And so what they wanted to do was do something together as a group that would celebrate her
Oh,
survival,
awesome. Yeah.
just her healing and all of that. And so one night, I'm sure after the run, when they were having some celebratory libations,
Right.
um, some people had, I guess somebody had bought maybe a Disney charm or something to kind of put on their either Brighton or Pandora. And the conversation came up about charm bracelets and how they had tried to find something for military,
Mm.
their military lifestyle, because that's kind of a unique story. And so they were showing each other some of their little charms. And somebody made the statement, yeah, but there's no charm out there for I had a baby by myself, my husband's
Right.
done 10 deployments,
Uh-huh.
or I've done the taxes 3 times by myself. There's no charm for
Right.
that. And so my friend Marika, who is she's our directing manager, and this is kind of her idea, went home on the plane the next day and on a napkin sketched out what that would look
Oh my
like.
gosh.
What
That.
charms would that be? And she went home, she called around to a couple of companies, and they did not bite. They didn't think the 1% of the American population that's military would kind of invest in that, and so there was no real market for it. So if anybody has ever met Marika Landon, one thing she does is what she wants to, and she decided that there was a market for that. While the 1% of the American population is acutely involved in the military, our grandparents,
the extension is much bigger.
Our kids are serving and have served, and so military life touches way more than 1% of the population in a lot of ways. And so Marika gathered some girls around her, and they just started doing this, and they created about 10 Marine Corps charms, and started that about 10 years ago. And we've grown to, I don't even know how, I mean, we have about 1,500 products at this point, including spacers and all kinds of other things. That's kind of morphed into all of these different chapters of what your story looks like in the military. And so we do duty stations and MOS charms and things like that for the service member, as well as moms, sisters, daughters, spouses. And so that's kind of what we did. I joined the company first. It was a direct sales company. It still is a direct sales company, although we've morphed into more things. But I started out as a consultant, and about a year into
Oh, hang on, Christy. You're frozen. What is going on? There you are.
That's kind of how I got into it. Oh, did I disappear?
I think we live in Rhode Island, and I swear the internet is as bad as Germany. It's so frustrating. I thought we'd come to the States and it would all be amazing, and it's not. So yeah, no, you were talking about just, moving from, your initial position into the leadership role that you're in now. And you'd frozen in kind of that context.
Yeah. So I was started out as a customer, and within about a year, I was an owner of the company. So
nice.
Very exciting, and I'm forever grateful that they gave me the opportunity to do that. So
yeah, it's fun. So talk to me a little bit about kind of the, now that you've sort of seen it from both sides, right? For someone who is kind of looking at starting something, or maybe they have, if they're really good at making jewelry, what's the path to them kind of going from a hobby or a craft, if you will, into really, kind of a full-fledged business and being able to have something that's scalable and kind of all the things we know that are necessary to really grow a business. So what did that look like from Nomadés?
So we had somebody who helped us initially, as far as none of us were jewelers. So I didn't even have a college degree. I still don't have a college degree. Every time I go back to college, I got pregnant, so I stopped doing that. But my initial degree was in biblical studies, which has nothing to do with jewelry. Marika had a background as a nurse. Melissa psychology. And so Jennifer's the only one that had a background in anything that was helpful, which is she's a certified tax specialist and an accountant.
Super helpful.
And that was really helpful. So we had somebody that came in and kind of mentored us about we could come up with idea after idea, because we had looked at these bases. So we knew that we wanted Paris Island to be a little set of yellow footprints. It made sense. We knew what that needed to be. But as far as getting it from the design into a product, we went to somebody who was in the sterling silver business, and she helped us initially. So I would say,
oh, that's awesome.
If you have some product, whether it's jewelry or something, look for somebody who's already in that industry that can kind of give you some guidance. And sometimes that is hard to find because people don't want competition. To look for somebody who's willing to mentor you along in that area. But that's what we did. We looked for somebody who was further along. She was actually not military, so that kind of helped with the process. And then as we learned and as we grew, we actually kind of outgrew that situation
Sure.
and able to uh, move to a different kind of a creative process. And it's all like things that you never think are going to align. But um, we were looking for somebody to actually do our things in a CAD production as far as computer graphics and to create our charms that way. And they were actually being hand carved in the initial onset of
Oh,
this.
wow.
When we were talking about it, how can we move kind of past that? It seems antiquated and it's hard to scale them to the right
Sure.
size, and some of them were chunky, and all of this. And I had remembered a conversation that I had with my brother-in-law, and he's an artist, and he was talking about doing CAD drawings. And I was like, hey, I think my brother-in-law might know somebody that can help us do this. And I went to him and I was like, hey, do you know what all these words mean? And I mean, we didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And he was, yeah, that's what I do for a living. And he ended up designing 13 of our charms.
Oh, wow.
Then we went on and found people who could do that on a long-term basis. And so we come up with the ideas, the drawings, and then we have artists that work for us. So I think initially, to answer your question, you have got to look for somebody who is a little bit further along in the process,
Mm-hmm.
who's willing to kind of mentor you and help you and answer those questions.
Yeah. No,
So
it's
the first thing I would suggest.
No, it's great. It's great advice. I had a lot of folks know I had attended a retreat last year and had the opportunity to talk to a couple people that are sort of in a similar space, a little bit different focus, but found it so incredibly valuable and so refreshing how I feel like there is a little bit of a cultural shift away from being competitive and really around trying to just support each other. And it's particularly, I think, in the MilSpouse space, but even beyond that, there's so many great mentor organizations and there's so many really accessible tools and even people that are willing to share, here's what worked for me, here's what didn't work for me. And to really be able to kind of hone your vision and hone your mission, through your conversations with them. So I think that's a huge, huge thing that folks should consider starting out.
I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Madison Originals.
Yeah, I am. I'm like a little bit on the edge of familiar. Yeah.
And they're a little bit different than us. They do bracelets with more beading on it and colored beads, and so it's not sterling silver, but it's a MilSpouse owned company. Wendy's awesome. She has built an amazing company, and we gave her jewelry away at our conference this year for our consultants.
I love that.
We value community over competition, and we're not worried. I don't think she's worried about us. I'm not in this. I'm only in this to help other people, help either a customer tell their story,
right.
a husband get out of the doghouse, whatever. I'm in for all of that, but I want to be able to help other spouses in whatever endeavor they're doing, and to celebrate their creativity and their passion. So
yeah,
there's any place there's enough room for all of us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So you and I were talking a little bit offline, but I'd love to bring that into this conversation because I think it's a really important one when you talk about developing a business and kind of what things to think about. So we were talking a little bit about the importance of pivoting in your business and being open to that. So can you kind of, I don't know, just give folks a sense of your perspective of what that's meant, on your path?
Sure. We started out as a direct sales company, and we had consultants, and we still have consultants. They're awesome. If you need any kind of jewelry, I can point you to some of the most amazing consultants. They are it's a small group still that are left of them. But we're not in every single location as far as boutiques and being in the exchange system. And so they have found their own place and their own just sisterhood kind of within our company, and we love it, and they're amazing. But what we saw happening probably about 6 years ago was there was some shifts going on in direct sales.
Mm-hmm.
And why some of those companies that are direct sale jewelry companies don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 or 6 years ago, you saw a lot of them kind of disappear off the map.
Yeah.
That's of no fault of their own. There was just a shift in direct sales to more health products, fitness things, and it moved kind of in that direction, and beauty products. So you see a lot of that uh, unique Rodan and
Yeah, no,
Fields,
yeah.
all the living essential oil, all of those are doing great, but there was a decline in jewelry. Well, we kind of saw that coming. We already knew that we were kind of a niche. And so we were just kind of trying to decide how we were going to face that, and what needed to happen. And the Navy Exchange came to us and asked if we would test in one of their jewelry counters. And they had seen us a year or so back and had already kind of approached us. And we were like, we're not sure we're ready to do that. And so they asked us to do, and we tested in Newport, and it was amazing and really good results. And so the NEX kind of took a chance on us, and we are in about anywhere from, I think, 25 to 30 of their locations right now, and then on NEX online. But we saw a problem. And so when you're in business, no matter what it is, whether it's a service industry or a product-based industry, there are going to be times where there's going to be lulls in the market, and there's going to be changes that happen within the industry itself, and you are going to have to make adjustments to that. And so we kind of stepped out a little bit on faith, because when you have a consultant or an independent consultant, then, and she doesn't have to have a lot of product to show. You have one bracelet, that's enough. But when you're in a big exchange,
Right.
you have to think about
Inventory.
display properties and marketing, and all of that was on a new level. And so we just kind of trial by fire a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Because you don't know everything that's going to be thrown your way. And so a lot of it was just pride and grit. I mean, really, we wanted it to succeed. And so we just got in the trenches and pushed through a little bit. And it was a whole new learning curve. So I went kind of like from managing training and helping the consultants to business development. And so I had to learn kind of a new way of thinking and how that looked and how that worked. And so there are going to be opportunities for your business to grow. And I used it when we were talking offline. I used a couple of examples. I won't, but I've seen mill spouse after mill spouse who started out doing one thing and it was successful.
Sure.
Or it wasn't successful.
Yeah. Either way.
And they used it to do another project or another thing that in order to help somebody or further along their career, but it looked totally different than what started out looking. And so I think you have to be kind of aware of what's going on around you either in your industry or whatever niche you're in. And then also be willing to look at what might be a path forward or a little bit of a pivot. And it is scary, but I think that's how we learn and grow. I think that's how we make not even our businesses better. I think that's how we make ourselves better. And so some of those things I've learned, I've been able to take and use in completely different areas that aren't even related to the jewelry business. So that's been exciting. And if you'd have asked me 10 years ago if I would be doing an interview with another mill spouse I would have been like, no, you're crazy. But I've been afforded that opportunity, and I don't want to squander it, and I don't want to hide it. I want other people to have success and be successful.
I mean, I think if I think back through like the interviews that I've done so far, I mean, I think that's a theme in kind of all of them, in that I think not in every case, but in most of them, they might have started off with a vision for, okay, I'm going to do this X thing. And then as they take in the feedback that they're getting, and as they're open to the idea that there could be something beyond that, they're able to build these even more impactful businesses. And so it is scary. It is, you don't know, and I'm certainly guilty of sort of holding back because I like to be sure of an outcome, and that's just not how this works. You have to be willing to kind of take some risks, some calculated risks, but still risks here and there, if you really want to both expand your business, but also, to your point, like kind of grow as a person. So, you
Right.
and I were talking about, when you get to the end of this military life, I think particularly in our, generation, if you will, of military spouse, it's not uncommon to get to towards the end and kind of go, oh, wow, okay, who am I? What do I want? What is my path? And I hope by having some of these conversations, we can kind of help people start to think through those things a little bit sooner, and start to take those chances a little sooner, while they,
Yes.
while it's kind of safer, if you will, to do so. So I love, yeah, no, that's good advice.
And I would say get involved in something where you have a community. Like, I'm so fortunate, and we talked a little bit about this offline. I'm so fortunate for Marika, Melissa, and Jennifer. And then for us, we have our warehouse manager, we have a marketing department, we have someone working we have a philanthropic charm that has a whole other for deployed spouses and all of that. So we have all these little components, and we have mostly mill spouses that work within our company. All of our charms are hand painted by mill spouses.
Wow.
So we have that. So I'm in a business where I have other people kind of with me in the blood, sweat, and tears of things. So I'm very fortunate for that. And it's a blessing. But some businesses are, you're just kind of in it by yourself.
Right.
And so I would say whether it is some kind of organization like AMC, or getting in things that are Facebook groups or whatever that are geared toward mill spouse entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs. It doesn't have to be mill spouse entrepreneurs, just some kind of group where you can have a little bit of community and you can have a sounding board, people to collaborate with, networking. Find a space where you feel comfortable at, because you can't. Well, I can't be doing something by myself. Yeah. I need somebody to reel me in on those times where I'm out on a ledge and freaked out, and anxiety kicks in, and this is, it's like the worst day ever. I need those people to kind of reel me in and get me focused back on what's what, or just let me rant and then it's gone, and the next day on. And those people who can celebrate even the big victories, the smallest like wins, who will come in and celebrate those things with you. So we can share all of those things with them. There are places out there for you if you are in this by yourself, because you can be in business for yourself, but you don't have to be in business by yourself.
No, I love that. And it's, it's funny because I think when I got into this, I really didn't understand how much some of those networks existed. And I think even in the 2 years that I've been around, they've continued to strengthen. And I have found them to be so invaluable when I'm sort of having an imposter day and I need someone to tell me, what makes sense and what, help me walk through a challenge that I'm having. You could do those things in a vacuum, but it won't be as good as if you can do them with someone who has the same heart for the same community that you do. Right. I think it really can help elevate what you're trying to do in a way that I really didn't appreciate until I got into a few of those organizations and went, wow, this is awesome. There's these people to turn to who really do want to be supportive. And again, aren't competing, they're just trying to lift each other up. So
now there's only so much of my husband's logistics perspective
that helps. Yes.
On a daily basis.
I know.
He's an idea fairy. God love him.
Yes, I understand. No, those are all good tips. So any other tips before we kind of sign off? Because this has been fun. I've enjoyed getting to know the company.
We talked a little bit about this offline, so I just want to share. I told Jen that I turned 50 this month. So my birthday was on the Super Bowl, and I was so grateful for the two older ladies who did the halftime show. Deacon. But anyway, I decided that when you think about turning 50 and also my husband retiring in November and coming to the end of kind of an era, that sometimes the word old is what comes to the mind. And so I always choose a word for the year. Last year, my word was capable. This year, my word is new. And I decided that this year was going to be some firsts for me and
Oh,
I
cool.
was going to find some new endeavors, new adventures. And so that is what I'm doing. I'm 2 months into it, and I've started helping a group who's actually church planting, which I've no background in
Church
at
planting?
all. Yeah, so they're starting a new
Oh,
church in their area.
okay.
It's an area that doesn't have hardly any churches.
Interesting.
So they needed somebody who knew how to do websites,
Uh-huh.
marketing, because you don't think about all that,
Right.
but
Right. It's got
things
to be
like that
done.
need that. And so I'm working a little bit in helping them with the logistical part of that, and knowing how to do just things like um, the right size photos for the website, Facebook, social media, all of that. Which years ago I could not have told you any of that stuff, but because of what I've done with Nomadés, I've been able to take that little bit,
Mm-hmm.
pass it on to somebody else totally unrelated to my business. I didn't have anything to do with jewelry, and I'm not going to do that forever. They're going to be fine and go on, but they needed somebody who kind of could speak the language of some of those other things, and I fit the bill. And somebody asked me to do it, and I was like, okay, I can do that. And I also have a little bit of extra time on my hand. I have kids. All my kids are almost out of the house, so I applied to be a substitute teacher
Oh.
for elementary. That's all I can handle. But I cannot do high schoolers. But I mean, I don't need to do that.
Sure.
But it's like, what have I not done? What could I do where it wouldn't take time away from Nomadis and I have a little bit of extra time and it wouldn't be like on a large scale and I don't have to think about it after I get home. I have enough to think about. So I was like, oh, I should substitute teach. And they took me. I
Aw.
couldn't believe it. And so don't limit
Yeah.
yourself. There are many things out there that you can do. Use your skills to do other things and to help people and to grow yourself. And don't be afraid to kind of forge through on your path and take the twists and turns that come with it. Those are some of the funnest, scary, but
Yeah.
funnest times that you have. So
No, that's so true. It's awesome. It's great advice. All right.
yeah,
Well, thank you for being here with us.
it's been so fun. Thank you so much, Jen.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it for this spotlight. We are trying to bring these to you as often as possible. So if you want to be featured, then hit me up. I've got a form you can fill out, super easy, and we can get you scheduled for a spotlight so you can tell a little bit about your story and your path in the hopes you can help someone else. Thanks so much, guys, and have a great day.